is the Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? You're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
And we're back. The playoffs are finally here. But, Michael, before I get started, we got breaking news. And I'm going to just start off by... I think I got different breaking news than you do, Mike. I just found out hot off the press. The San Antonio Brahmas must have had practice tonight, because I just got breaking news that Ryan Santoso just missed another field goal. That's breaking news, just breaking news. So I don't know. I guess he must have missed a practice. I guess it doesn't mean the same, but you know. But anyway, so really the real breaking news. I'll let Mike, because you know Mike has waited all day for this breaking news.
As soon as we had this breaking news, so those following the UFL saw that Mike Nolan, head coach of the Michigan Panthers, has received the honor of head coach of the year for the United Football League. Well deserved. Great coach, great person. Met him a few times when working down in Detroit with the USFL last season. So couldn't be a more deserving coach out there. Had a few quarterbacks to work with throughout the regular season. Much like with when they it's not all about records all the time, with the Stallions having a better record, but, coaching different quarterbacks, keeping the whole thing in one piece, well-deserved. Couldn't be more happy for Mike Nolan.
So as a courtesy of the UFL, let's actually show our viewers how they presented the award to him.
I want to take you back a little over a year ago. We changed 4 head coaches in the USFL going into season 2. One of those coaches was changed in February. And you know how our season is, right? So how late is that timeline? Trying to make a change in that situation. And it's February. How are you going to reach out, go through your network, try and figure out who it is? And my phone rings, and I look down, and it says Mike Nolan. And Coach Nolan had a conversation, and he's like, I heard you have an opening in Michigan. He goes, I'd love the opportunity, to have that shot. And I mean, how can you say no to something like that? I mean, tremendous amount of respect for Mike as a coach. You're going through this journey of spring football, and you need some validation points along the way. And that to me is one of the biggest ones I've ever had. When somebody of his caliber reaches out and expresses an interest in being a part of what we're trying to build in the spring. He took Michigan to the playoffs last year. He's taking them to the playoffs again this year, but he's also taking them as the UFL Head Coach of the Year.
Big surprise. I have no idea. Thank you very much. I will say this, guys. The only way something like that even happens for anybody, guys, this is the ultimate team sport. Don't I tell you that every day? All right. And collectively, guys, whatever is the fact that I got this fine, but more importantly, guys, it's because of all you players and the coaches and everybody, Steve, everybody in this organization has made this happen. As I see this is a team honor without any question, guys. All right. What do I do during practice? I just walk around and do nothing. So that's it. Okay. All right. Blow a whistle and the play's over, So yeah, but anyhow, I want to thank all of you guys. All right. More importantly than anything else, let's finish this thing off right. All right. We got a game this week. Let's do it right. Okay. And let's make it happen. All right. Guys, I want you to get a break. Get a break. Let's go. Panthers on 3. 1, 2, 3. Panthers. Thanks, guys.
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Again, that was courtesy of the UFL.
Thank you for that, UFL.
So,
oh my goodness, that can't be throughout the players. He's a player coach. All the players love it. You see it right there, the video there, and couldn't have. I couldn't be more happy for Coach Nolan. This is great. With the team, how they're playing, and he tried to get out of there, and the team's like, no, you're breaking us down. You're getting us out of here.
So is this possibly a sign that the walls are starting to crack a little bit on the dynasty? That Skip Holtz, that everybody just figured was a shoe-in for the award? I mean, is this step one? Is the big step two coming here shortly?
And, it's the way they're playing, would Birmingham better off losing that game? Now Michigan, you come in the game when it really counts, right? With that massive chip on the shoulder, when a team gets tired of losing to another team so many times, there's going to be some give, I think, there. And here this Saturday, with all the marbles on the line for the USFL side of things, it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a nail biter. Look out, Birmingham. Here come the Panthers.
So before we get too deep into this discussion, we've got a guest tonight. It's a sheer pleasure to bring him on. It'll be my first chance to get to meet him. He is the senior NFL draft analyst and is part of the Team MBS Media. Let's bring on Jeff Barnes. Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
Not bad. Thanks for having me, guys. I greatly appreciate it.
So if I'm not mistaken, Mike told me earlier today, did you cover the Orlando Guardians last year?
Yes, for Team MBS Media. I was the beat writer for Team MBS Media for the Guardians. So it was great to cover the XFL last year. I kind of miss it this year a little bit. Not being, as involved as I was last year, being a bystander again. But it was great to actually be covering the league on a weekly basis in-house as opposed to being outside of it.
So does that give you any inside info on whether there's still a heartbeat left for Orlando at some point in the UFL?
I hope so. I hate to see a pro league without a Florida presence. It's like a pro league without a Texas presence. It doesn't seem right, So I thought that Orlando would have made the cut because you need a team in Florida. It didn't. With no Tampa Bay coming back, I thought would have definitely been a reason to keep the Guardians around. But they chose to go a different direction. It's been better for them this year, I must admit. This has been a great year for the combined league. It definitely has the new name has a special place in my heart.
So we thought that since do you live in Florida?
Yes. I moved to Florida about 6 years ago now. I'm in the Tampa area.
So I figured that since you're so close to Birmingham, you might be able to lend a little bit of insight as we break down the Birmingham, Michigan game.
Yeah, well, we could definitely. I followed him pretty well. Even though I didn't cover the USFL last year, I did watch, especially because there's a lot of guys that I scouted in these leagues. So it's nice to see certain guys go out there and perform at this level and show that they can play ball and get a chance at the big league that everybody wants to get back to. So there are guys, of course, we know that had their cup of coffee or a couple of years there that are hanging out here. There are guys that haven't been there yet that are trying to get there. So I'm anxious to see where this is going. I like what I've seen so far from Birmingham. I mean, credit to Skip Holtz. He found his niche here, but credit to Coach Nolan as well, right? Jeff Fisher was here last year. Wasn't the same team, wasn't the same environment. Coach Nolan has come in and definitely changed the air. It was a breath of fresh air for him. I think with some of the older coaches like him who have been in the NFL for a while with the changes in the NFL, this is the best thing for them because they get to work with developing players. It's more of what they're used to, and everything kind of fits them a little bit better now than the current NFL.
Well, to set ourselves up for our Birmingham, Michigan discussion, again, courtesy of the UFL, let's look at the Week 10 highlights of the Birmingham, Michigan game, and we'll talk about it when we come back.
Stallions on the move. It's Martinez throwing again. Finds Chase Sternberger up the sideline inside the 10. Ball pops out toward the end. Sternberger reaches for it. No whistle yet, and they mark him down inside the 1. It's a gain of 53. Stallions go jumbo. Handoff is to Marable, and he dances in for the first 6 of the game. Last drive. Etling again flushed. Fires. Mariners open. He's got it. Touchdown, Panthers. A 4. 3 minutes into this third quarter, Stallions still on the initial drive. Marable finds a seam. Marable toward the goal line. Touchdown, Stallions. First and goal from inside the 5. Martinez pulls, throws, touchdown, Stallions. Jace Stern. Gets the snap off. Martinez fakes it to Marable, spits it out, and that'll count. Marcus Baugh. 4th down and 4. 4-man rush. Etling's pass is caught to cap the season with a win. The kick is no good.
Oh, I was doing everything I could to help that football game. But real quick, though, about Mike Nolan, too. He loves coaching in this league. Absolutely loves it. Overheard him on a last game against the Memphis Showboats at home. And I got to be around about the field level, and he was talking to somebody just how much he loves being around the kids. He calls the players kids, and they're kids to him, and absolutely loves coaching them, the schedule and everything too. So it makes me think of like a guy like maybe there's maybe somebody can send a text to old Belichick, hey, it's not too bad over here in the UFL. It's nice, you get to do all your you get your coaching fixed, and you're not there, you can just enjoy life. It's not the most demanding schedule out there. So all the coaches out there in these spring leagues, phenomenal. Love them, love the players, love the coaches. So good to see a hard-fought game, and I'm looking forward to another couple games this Saturday and Sunday.
Boy, it seems like we've haven't had a chance to really break anything down yet, but I got to pay some bills. So when we come back, we'll get into it. We'll be right back.
You aren't perfect. If you've ever struggled, if you've ever failed, if you want to get better, be better, and make our world better, this is the perfect brand for you. True Victory. Founded by U.S. military veterans, True Victory is a sportswear and streetwear brand dedicated to building everyday champions on and off the field. We're a cause. Our purpose is to transform lives and elevate humanity through the power and unity of sports, positive stories, and serving others. We're dedicated to the game, the grind, and the globe. But most importantly, we're dedicated to you. That's what it means to be. Always true.
So, heading into the playoffs, we get to find out, you know what they always say, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in the same year. So, back to, not only is it third time this year, but it's even a back-to-back. So, what do you think, Mike? What do you...
Well, shoot. Well, based on what we saw in the last game, it can go. Birmingham was a field goal away from losing that game. So if it's close, it's going to be anybody's game. We saw how Michigan's defense plays. They're going to come after you, especially with the Sternberger. We saw that first highlight clip there with the fumble. You know, who could a turnover be the difference here? And I think it very well could. We saw Danny Etling get the nod for this game, and I think he played pretty sharp that first half against Birmingham. So this game can be won by anybody. The spread, I mean, I think that's, you know, honestly, in my opinion, 5 points, I think is I'm not one to say like disrespect, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. I mean, it is going to be, I think it's a pick 'em based on what I saw these last few times against when they played each other. So if you're out there, if you're a betting person out there, you know, that 5 point, you know, underdog Michigan, you know, looks pretty, I think pretty tasty for those who want to get on some action.
So Jeff, I'm a big Iowa Hawkeye fan. So I got to watch Adrian Martinez play quite a bit. What's your thoughts on how he's progressed this year, and if you've had a chance to watch the Michigan games, kind of assess the job that you think Michigan did keeping him under wraps?
I've definitely been impressed with the growth of Adrian Martinez. Definitely a different quarterback from the days at Nebraska. The Kansas State year was amazing. I got to see him during the draft process as well. And this year, I think we've started to see him become more of the quarterback that you want to see at the next level, that professional quarterback. He makes the big throws when he can. He's making smarter decisions with the football. He's using his legs wisely, not putting himself in danger, not overextending plays, doing things of that nature. And that's why I think they're doing well. They win, of course, 9-1 in the regular season, some tough wins, both at times against Michigan. Those were very tough games. But he's learned to work in the system. He has a very strong running game to go along with him. He has some great options on the outside. So while his receivers aren't the big threat, we know the X factor for him is Jay Sternberger. He's figured that out. He's found ways to get him the ball off of play action. He's found ways to get him the ball vertically. He's finding ways to get him and use him to open up other guys in the passing game. And, of course, using his legs when they get into trouble. So I think he's adapted to what the offense needs him to do, and it's managed to work in their favor. Now here you are, one step away from a championship repeat.
So in your eyes then, now having seen him play a season in the UFL, as a potential NFL candidate, what's your thoughts? Is he definitely rose in the stock as far as the chances that he could make the NFL?
Oh, absolutely. I believe he'll get a chance in somebody's camp after this is all over. Somebody will probably grab him up, bring him to camp, and see if he can hold on to a roster spot there. If not, he's definitely practice squad eligible as well. So I think the NFL is looking at him, seeing the things he's doing, seeing the progression, and saying, you know what, he's learned a lot. He's a guy that can come in. He's probably better than our QB3 or just as good, maybe a year or two younger with a little more juice in the legs. It's worth a look. He's going to be a cheap ad. You're not going to have to pay a lot of money for him unless you're in a bidding war with 3 or 4 other teams. So those guys are always things that the NFL are looking for. They're looking for cheap talent that they can bring in and not break their salary cap. So that's definitely a thing that they're going to look for.
So let's look at, Mike, let's look at the stats that Adrian Martinez put up against Michigan the 2 times they played this year. Back in week 2, he went 8 for 15 for only 88 yards and rushed another 65 yards on 8 carries.
Yep.
Then in week 10, 14 completions, 28 attempts, 163 yards and a touchdown, and only rushed for 41 yards. So as you look at his performance during the year, Michigan probably did the best job overall keeping him under wraps. So I don't know. I kind of like Michigan's chances this week.
Well, and it's a lot. I think they've played a lot better since their week 2 game. When they started Matt Corral, the week 2 game, and then Adrian Martinez comes in the second half, and from what I saw too, they beat Michigan rushing on the edge, even with Martinez running on the outside, running the ball, doing jet sweeps to the outside. Michigan's edge, and in my opinion, they tore them apart. And I think Michigan has since very well adjusted to that. And we saw in the last game too. They took the ground game as far as Adrian Martinez goes out of the game, and they are all over him. Breland Speaks had himself a day. The Michigan defensive front had a great day against them, and unfortunately, just a field goal away from a missed field goal. Nothing against Jake Bates. We have Michigan and the fan base have all the confidence in him too, but they'll get another shot. It's not one wasn't a done deal. So it's good knowing they had another shot after a game like that.
The wide receivers for Birmingham really, there was 4 receivers nobody got more than 3 catches. There was only 1 player went over 50 yards, but for the most part, Michigan pretty much shut them down. So, my feeling with that game is I kind of thought that there was, in the middle of the portion of the game, I actually thought Michigan kind of was playing like they had the game in control.
I agree.
But unfortunately, as Birmingham is good at doing, they impose their will in the fourth quarter and end up pulling these games out.
No lead safe in this league.
But if you look at Birmingham, in the past 2 seasons, it was easy to say, yeah, the Stallions are definitely the favorites. Nobody can hang with them. But if you look at the Final Four that's in the playoffs, of course, San Antonio beat Birmingham. Michigan has basically been, a 1-score game both times, and both games were very, come right down to the end. And even though the Birmingham St. Louis game wasn't very well played, I didn't think by either team, St. Louis definitely had a chance to beat them at the end of that game as well. So I think with the Final Four teams we've got going in the UFL this year, it's kind of like a crapshoot. I think any team, if they get hot and they play good football, they definitely all have the defense that can win a championship.
Oh, absolutely. And then the stakes are being as high too. The margin for error is almost at no room for error, especially with how close these games are. So that's gonna be real key. And then Jeff too. I mean, when you watch these games too, I'm sure you're going same things going through your mind too, because any given play, when you watch these things, what can go wrong, and everyone better be all the assignments, all the coaching assignments, and each team too having to make corrections Michigan, the penalties, we haven't mentioned the penalties yet. Michigan being down there in the red zone, I think could have very well put this game away, but backed up, and it was third and goal all the way, backed up 30, just things that you can't do. I've heard from Birmingham fans that, there's things that they saw that they need to address. So maybe the whole week, how much is corrections and how much time, Jeff, are they focusing on the opponent?
Well, I think they're all focusing on one word. And we're talking about the offenses and how the defenses are playing. One of the reasons why those games are so close is because Michigan's defense has played very disciplined this year. They're not giving up a lot of big plays like you saw the year before. They're able to slow people down. They're able to do a lot of those things to keep themselves in games and win games. So they were able to go out there twice against Birmingham, keep them from consistently getting big plays, and that was able to keep them in games. At one point, they were winning the earlier season game. So I think that when you look at these teams in the playoffs, that's a common thing. The teams that are playing disciplined defense, the teams that are disciplined and not, turning the ball over, they're not committing untimely penalties, are teams that are showing that they have the best chance to win on that day. If that's the case with this team here, Michigan's got to come out and do just what they've done defensively. Continue to limit the big plays. You can limit them and keep them to 20 points. But what you want to see, though, if you're Michigan offensively, is you want to see this running game get going early. I like what I've seen from them. I know you're running the 2-quarterback system. One of the things that makes it easier is getting explosive plays and bigger plays and chunk plays in your running game. Wes Hills, a guy I liked at Slippery Rock coming out of college. It's nice to see him getting the chance to tote the rock. He shows he has the ability to do it in tandem there. And if those guys get going early, if they're able to put that Birmingham defense on their heels early, I think it gives you guys a chance to play with a league and gives you a chance to finish this game as opposed to going out and getting into a dogfight till the end. So I think that's one of the keys right there is jump on them early, put that defense on their heels with your running game, allows you to open up certain things in the passing game, get some of those chunk plays, make their defense become disciplined and keep you under control. And I think that's where Michigan has the best chance of winning this game.
So, Mike, with with the unfortunate injury with Hill, have you seen in the running back tandem that's left? Have you seen any of those three? They had Perkins, McCrary, and Taua. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
They both. You had McCrary and Tua both had 8 carries, and Perkins had 3. Are you getting a feel for the running backs? Is there any of them standing out one or over the other?
I am. So with Matt Colburn too. So I think you have more of your crash and dash tandem here. So I think Matt Colburn's more of your speedster. And based on what I saw too with Nate McCrary too, and more and true to close to home for me with us with him coming from Saginaw Valley State. What I saw in that game too, he had 30 some yards on the rush on the ground. I think 8 or 9 carries. I got it right here. Nate McCrary, I think he's more of your muscle guy. 8 attempts for 36 yards. And those are hard yards against these Stallions here. And I think he's more of not your, Wes Hills is a different beast now. So all credit to Wes Hills, but I think not too far away from where Wes Hills is and where Michigan Panthers I think wants their running back to be. And Nate McCrary, I don't think he's too far off. He can get you those short yardage gain too. He can break out. He can very easily break out. I think he has the speed to do it too. But between those two, I think, Colburn, he'll be your guy you want to get going early, as Jeff said. Like we saw against DC, he can get a lot of yards, get those big yards early and quickly, and put the Stallions back on their heels, have them put the pressure on them, and then have the defense do their thing. Michigan defense do their thing, and should have a close game on Saturday.
Hey, Henry. Hey, Amanda. Glad you're joining us tonight. Let's take another break. And when we come back, let's talk about the scheduling of these 2 games for this weekend. We'll be right back. So before we finish the breakdown of this game and ultimately choose who we think is going to win the game, I found it kind of interesting the fact that, in the South, you guys are getting to where it's pretty toasty down there. And here was an opportunity where they could have had a dome team like St. Louis, could have had they could have had an indoor dome game at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Saturday, and they could have given the evening game to Birmingham that would have helped, put more butts in the seats. So what's your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Well, it's definitely going to be a challenge for Michigan because it's not as hot up there as it is down here right now. Playing in the heat this late in the season, that's usually something we do earlier in the year. In the spring, unfortunately, is the reverse, right? So you just got to hydrate. I think you guys got to be prepared for that. When it comes to playoff football, whether you're playing in the heat, in the cold, on the moon, it doesn't matter. You're going to be amped up. You're going to be ready to go. It's just you got to prepare for that extra thing, and that's just the conditions of the game. If it's raining, you got to be prepared to have an alternate game plan if you're coaches because weather can affect things. Well, and the heat's going to affect your players. So I think the main thing is with Mike Nolan's style of football, it's not going to overly hurt you guys. I think the team that gets overly physical and gets beat up more is the team that's going to struggle. And it's not just because of the heat, but just because of the style of play. This is the kind of game, two teams that are physical, somebody's going to get worn down faster. And I think overall, right now that the main thing is, can Michigan be the more physical team this time around? The one thing they've both gone toe-to-toe. They both hit each other with haymakers in the two games. It's been tight, but the more physical team is the team that won. And that's the one thing about it this time around. Can they be the more physical team?
So, Mike, did you have a chance to look at the injury report as far as the game goes? Is both teams pretty much going to be at full strength, or are they both in the dog days of the season where they're just doing the best they can and the list is long?
Well, the big one is we saw EJ Perry get elevated off of injured reserve, so we know Danny Ettling's a starter. Now we saw Bryce Perkins show a ton of like lightning in a bottle. And I saw him, he almost immediately came in and adjusted very well to the offense, and he was a weapon on the field. So throwing it, running the ball, almost he would have been great to have, and obviously with everybody watching the game, we all know the game, and we don't know when it happens. Just any given play, you can catch a zinger, and the significance of the injury, the timing is not great, because we're right here in the USFL championship. So but it's it's next man up. That's how Michigan, I feel, has been all year. Even after the loss of Frank Ginda, I think they have they elevated the linebackers and played very well, and didn't seem to miss a beat too. So we all would love to have Frank Ginda in there. He would, I think, very well have been on that defense all UFL defensive team, as we see 7 other Michigan Panthers on that roster. So with that being said too, and as far as the schedule goes too, and it's almost a mirror of an hour difference between last week and this week. So I don't think Michigan's gonna be bothered by it. If anything, I think Birmingham might be bothered by it. Maybe the fans are a little bothered by it. But I think they will show up and support, knowing that the stakes, hey, this could be it. We have to go. So all the Birmingham Stallions fans out there, I know they'll be there to pack that game. Get as many friends as you can, because try to disrupt this Michigan offense, and they'll be ready for it. Mike Nolan will have them ready. Coach of the year once again, so he's not worried about it. They embrace it. They want that environment. And then as far as the Fox having and I think it's interesting too, with ABC from last year, ABC having the XFL, Fox having the USFL. Now they both switch. So now it's like, okay, all the analysts at ESPN, you're going to cover the USFL championship, and Fox, you're going to have the XFL conference championship. And then Fox, they're going to want to, credit to St. Louis, with their fan base filling the dome. they want their best of the best as far as showcasing what the league's about. You want it at the prime time slot Sunday night, to show what the UFL is really all about. So that's your the spotlight is on you, those watching from St. Louis out there tonight. This is it's your time. Put the UFL on a great display. Get loud, get rowdy, because it's gonna be those watching at home. So maybe Oklahoma City, they had high TV numbers. Have them more. Hey, keep watching. Maybe when this league expands, we can get our team. So a lot to be said for that. That counts, folks. So if those who may not have had their team absorbed in the merger, getting your team back by watching it and supporting the league, you're going to see some conversations. The conversation right now is heating up with Oklahoma City. It's raising some eyebrows in the front offices of the UFL. And, it's not going to be taken lightly. It's going to be at the table when they have these expansion conversations. So that's how you're going to get your Generals back, your Orlando Guardians out there. Tune in, watch the game, support the league. It'll happen.
So as Henry weighs in here before we get to our picks, but he's going with the Panthers, so I'm sure he's Mike enjoys that pick. One question I have for Jeff, and that is, and I probably should have touched on it when we had our Adrian Martinez discussion, but if you notice, practically every game they play, every time he comes off the field, between possessions and whatnot, Coach Holtz is in his ear, telling him the good, telling him the bad. Is he kind of taking on the quarterback coach type of role with Adrian Martinez? Because it seems to me a little unusual that you have a head coach that invested so much time in one player during the whole game.
And sometimes a head coach just knows that I have a quarterback who I have to continuously be in communication with. I have to be the guy that picks him up when he's struggling, not the guy to be that pats him on the head saying great job, but keeps him grounded when he's doing well. So I think it's just a matter of he recognizes the player. Maybe he needs that kind of constant supervision. He has the most trust of the coaching staff when it comes to that. It's sometimes just a player relationship type deal. Watching the same team last year with a different guy in the center, it was kind of like, okay, he didn't do it as much. So I think he just recognized, listen, especially when he kind of won the role during the season. So I think it's one of those things where you're my guy. I don't want you looking over your shoulder when you're struggling. I want you to keep focused on right now, keep doing almost that Willie Beeman kind of talk. Run the Buick, throw the ball, complete the pass. So I think that's the main thing that he's doing now is he's just making sure he has his quarterback still locked in on every series. And he's making sure he's feeding him information because he's trusting where he's getting it from.
But as an NFL draft analyst, I'll ask this question to you. Mm-hmm. Does it make any difference to you, or do you perceive Adrian Martinez any differently, the fact that he needs to have coaching to that extent?
No,
because does that raise any red flags as far as being able to process things?
I still think he has a long way to go as far as fully processing full field reads. There's times, but also one of the things is with developmental leagues, it's the same kind of thing we see in the preseason. Those guys that are the QB3s that are out there with the threes when they're running in games, their reads aren't as clean. How they feel the pocket isn't as clean because the protection's not as good. So I think what you're seeing is I don't have a red flag on it for that because what I'm seeing is he's still a young quarterback. He's still developing, and he has a guy who's mentoring him right now who knows, one, how to coach him to wins. I don't need him to go out there and throw for 300 yards. I just need him to go out there and execute within the system, and I'm going to make sure I have my hand on the needle to make sure it's moving in the right direction. But so I don't really see it as a red flag. I think wherever he goes, they're going to have a plan for him, just like they have a plan for him where he is currently. So, and that's most young quarterbacks. And there's very few of them. And usually the guys that you don't have to have a big plan for, they're going early. They're not even here playing in the spring. Right now, they're out there working out in mini camps. So I think when you look at guys like this, all these quarterbacks should be getting this, except for the veterans who've played at the NFL for several years, who understand this level of football. The A.J. McCarrons, the Etlings, those guys have been there already. So you expect a little more of those guys where you don't have to do this. But the guys like Adrian Martinez, who's never really played at the NFL level, had a cup of coffee there, I think these are the guys that you want to see the coaches doing that for, because the whole point of them being here is to grow so they have a chance to compete at that level.
And like Brett says, Brett's covered the Stallions for, and knows the team and the head coach a lot better than I do. So the fact that this is just Skip Holtz's coaching style.
Yeah, and he was like that in college as well, when he, in his different stints, especially down here in South Florida, he was like that. When he has a veteran quarterback, he's not as much. He does talk to them coming on and off the field, but I think it's more because, like I said, he wasn't the starter at the beginning of the season. They were splitting time, but he won the role. So he's going to make sure he's doing everything to help him succeed.
My favorite part, what I love most about the UFL is how much, me being a student of the game, I'm sure we all are too. Just when the access the fan gets watching on television. We all saw the clip, when Skip Holtz don't throw your arms up at me, just focus on the next play. And his approach to how he talks to the quarterbacks too, and and his coaching is so phenomenal. I think anybody who wants to get into coaching or has coached too, when they watch Skip Holtz, how he interacts with the players, it's a conversation. He's not yelling. A lot of players, they don't like getting yelled at, especially like a lot of the athletes today. Nothing against like athletes, it's just how they the mindset, right? Then but he has found a way to get the message across, right? Because how communication is so important in football, language, tone of voice, all that stuff keeps everything calm. The long ball, he just wants you to get it to where just throw the wide receiver so he has a chance to touch it. So great coaching by him. I think we're all in for a darn good games. That's all comment there. Darn good games. We're in for a treat. Football fans everywhere. If tell your friends, like, hey, if you haven't watched the UFL this season, tune in this weekend. The stakes being highest. I think a lot of fans love urgency. I certainly do. All these games is for all the marbles, the chance for the right to go to the championship game. So I don't think there's a better opportunity to get some new fans in. Good time slots there for fans to watch on television. So I'm expecting great games both. It's going to come down to the final minutes. Whoever may have the ball last, may win the game.
So
Mike, I'm sorry. Yeah, Mike, well, don't feel bad. Listen, there were guys 30, 40 years ago that didn't like getting yelled at by their coaches. It's not a new thing. Mike Ditka was a lot of his antics on the sideline. The players were yelling back. Trust me. It was a mutual thing. It's when you're coaching grown men, it's hard because when you're coaching kids, they look at you, yes, coach, no coach. You can intimidate them a little bit when you get angry. Grown men tend to growl back. It's two big dogs going at it. Even when you're the coach, at the end of the day, they're feeding their family just like you are. So they're a lot more standoffish than they appear.
So let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll give our picks.
Let's do it.
Same great taste. Yes, same great taste. Same great taste.
2:00 game Saturday on ABC.
3 p.m. Eastern.
Kickoff, yeah. 2 p.m. where it matters. So the high is supposed to be 87 degrees and sunshine. So it's going to be a sticky one. And Jeff, why don't we start off with you? And we'll let you give your pick first.
Yeah, that weather seems like it's going to be hot. You know, 87 down here feels like 94. So that's gonna be some nice hot sticky weather. We're gonna see some guys getting tired, but like I said, the more physical team in this game is going to be the team that wins. I see it as a very close game. It's been close all year. Got closer as the year went along. I think it's going to be the home team that pulls it out, though. It's going to be one play here in the fourth quarter. I think is going to be what gets him over the hump. I'm going to go Birmingham 22-20.
Mike?
Well, we've seen it over and over again, and I've seen it in another sport too. Just sometimes you just get beat by the same team over and over again. There's going to come a time where a team says, enough, we are drawing a line in the sand. We had you, just didn't go our way. Now we get another shot at you. A lot of big, massive chip on the shoulders of the Michigan Panthers. This is the game. This is the game. When all the chips are on the table, there's no tomorrow with this game. That's the mindset you got to go into. This is all the weights, all the training, everything for this game. This is it. And you got the guys who just, it's like a Colts Patriots kind of thing. You know, Patriots always been the team that ruined a lot of seasons. You know, just always been the thorn on your side. And this is where you can, if you get them close. We saw, you know, Rocky Balboa, Ivan Drago. You cut him. You hurt him. He's not a he's a man. Michigan Panthers, you had the lead. You cut him. You cut the Birmingham Stallions. You can get him one more round. This round. Go get him. Win it. And I think it's going to be a close game. Michigan wins. And the score, could it be a redemption for Jake Bates? And could it be a closer game? I think let's go 24-21 Michigan.
So you're sliding all those chips on the table. You're sliding them to the center. You're all in on this game, huh? God, I've been so back and forth. Well, actually, I wasn't back and forth. I was all set to take Michigan in this game. I was thinking the same thing as you. Third time's going to be a charm. God, when it comes right down to doing it, I just can't do it. I'm going to take Birmingham squeaking it out at the end again. I'm going to say let's go 23-22.
Oh,
Birmingham, and it's going to be a last second field goal. It's going to do it. But I have to go with Birmingham.
Oh, Michigan has a lead at the end, huh?
Michigan has them, and just when you think, Mike, you got it, you don't got it.
Oh my goodness! Well, that'd be, you know, if either way, that'd be a real treat of a football game. So yeah, anything that can go either way. Our predictions. I mean, it seems like a pick 'em, you know, but we all have our picks. But holy smokes, I think if it delivers like our picks are, you know, say that we all think it's going to be, I think we're all in for a real treat.
Absolutely.
Shout out to Steve Kaiser for, you know, really doing a great job.
Absolutely.
Yes. You know, I got to meet him for the first time this offseason. I was on the road at an All-Star game. He was also there. We shared a booth together. Great guy. Did a great job with this roster.
Yeah, and Steve's awesome. You know, I had a few conversations with Steve in the USFL office in Ipsy, and happy you got to meet him too. I mean, great guy, and he done a phenomenal job building this team. You look at these guys who he brings in, big, you know, some NFL experience there. He knows how to find these guys, you know, and you think the only couple people what did he do to find Jake Bates? You know, what film did he have what did he see that maybe someone else didn't, and so he's got the leg. And Steve, great, bravo, getting this team 2 years back to back. They're in a conference final or division final 2 years in a row. Couldn't be more proud of the organization right now. I think fan base has a lot to look forward to.
So we're gonna hold off on the St. Louis Battlehawks San Antonio game for our second hour, because we really don't have enough minutes left here to really start diving into it. Instead, let's kind of talk about the 2024 season of the UFL. Some numbers come out today that were pretty encouraging.
Absolutely.
So let's start off with ESPN engagements, social media, up 50% versus 2023. Digital unique users on ESPN up 47% over 23. The UFL Today up 9% studio coverage. Top local markets, number 1 was Birmingham. Number 2 was St. Louis. Number 3, Oklahoma City, which is interesting. To not even have a UFL team, but yet you make the top 3 markets. So I think there's a city there that's kind of screaming for an expansion team.
I agree.
We've got viewership up 31% over 23. With the Stallions Brahma game being the most watched game at 1.1 million viewers. Total reacts, viewers across ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, and Deportes, 36.1 million for the 24 regular season. So pretty impressive stuff for the inaugural season of the UFL. I got to imagine that the powers that be have to be walking away from this season encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, it's good television, like I mentioned earlier too. You can pick up a lot of stuff. There's a lot to learn. I think they do a phenomenal job of explaining different things. My favorite thing is hearing the play call. Because I like, being able to dissect what words mean what, because there's, different offenses. We saw with St. Louis, they have, alert, the big, long offensive play call, your John Gruden type of play call. Bruce Gradkowski, I think, played under John Gruden, so he has, those long play calls. Birmingham Stallions, maybe 4 or 5 words max. Everyone kind of knows what their assignments are based on one word, so the terminology. So being able just to kind of hear that, kind of try to dissect it yourself, and when you can rewatch the games, you hear the play call and you can see the formation, so you kind of like your rep, Lex, Rex, why going here, the play calls are just, I love it. I eat it all up. It's my favorite thing to watch, and you just go back and just watch the plays. I'm an air raid offense, so when you hear or fan of the air raid, so San Antonio and even with Michigan with Marcel Belfoy, his play calls, so it's cool to just watch and just learn. You can learn so much. Same thing with these players too, trying to develop fans who are watching the game too. You can kind of, rather than just sit and watch your NFL games, if you're doing extra work, or scouting, whichever you want to call it, watching these games, there's a lot you can pick up. And then when you're with your friends, you can be that guy who watched, oh yeah, I watched him in the UFL last season, and people like, oh, and it may help on your fantasy team too. Investing into this league may help you win a fantasy championship one day. So you just never know. There's a lot of things for everybody when watching the spring league.
What do you think, Jeff?
It's definitely good for the fans. You don't get with the NFL this kind of access. As somebody that deals with the NFL, they're very guarded about a lot of things internally. So the fans don't get this kind of access. So for you to be able to hear the play call, you hear the intricacies of the professional play call as opposed to the college and high school levels. So you're hearing a lot more detail. You're hearing what players have to go through to understand what they're doing out there, how things are adjusted. They're understanding the checks, the line scrimmage. You're getting a lot more verbiage than you get at the NFL level. So, and with the quieter stadiums, and something I'm used to as a player when I played, we had very quiet stadiums. So this is something that you also pick up. There's a lot of the calls, a lot of the chatter at the line of scrimmage. So there's a lot of things that fans don't get at the next level. When you have a full stadium and fans are full throat and there's sound effects going off, you may get the quarterback saying a couple of things, but you're not hearing safeties talking. You're not hearing linebackers talking. You're not hearing linemen yelling out calls, protection calls. So there's a lot of things that you are getting with this program that's allowing the fans to learn more about professional football. So that's one great thing about it. Number two, you're also seeing to get development of players. You get the pros, you get the couple of guys you see all season, you get the main starters, but you get these young guys in the preseason where half the fans aren't paying attention anyway, right? So you don't really get to see the development of young players as much at the NFL level. You're seeing it here. You're seeing guys grow over a 10-game season. They have to grow over a 10-game season because they don't get a full offseason like the NFL guys do. So this is something that I think they're starting to hit with fans now. They're starting to appreciate what they're seeing. They're starting to enjoy the game. I think, as much as I was beating them up for it last year when they merged and contracted so much, I think they're seeing a better spring product this year because there's more talent on less teams as opposed to what we had with the two different leagues last year. We had a lot of teams and the talent was sparse in certain areas. We're seeing better offensive line play. We're seeing better quarterback play. We're seeing better play overall in both, as far as the league this year. So in the combined league, I should say, this year. So overall, I think that's starting to hit with fans. They're starting to tune into it more. They're starting to appreciate it more. You got to grow it now. I think the best thing that's happened with the USFL is they adopted that XFL model. We can hub here, but we got to go play in our markets. We have to go connect with the fans. That was the one thing I thought the XFL did better last year when they came around, was putting those teams in the markets at least for games so fans could connect with the teams physically. It was nice to have Birmingham connect with their fans, but they weren't connected with every other team that played out there when Birmingham wasn't playing. It's nice to have Michigan playing in Michigan and getting to connect with their fans. It's the same thing with the Battlehawks. The St. Louis crowd is amazing. So I think that's one of the biggest pushes that I think has made the best sense for this league.
And what I would like to see too next is now, because we heard even when I went to the Michigan town hall, they use the words, the crawl, walk, run. And what I would like to see, I hope we get it next year, where teams are based in their city. I would love to see Michigan have an office here where they can practice here, play here. That's what I want, and who knows? So maybe, when Michigan has their training or teams have their training camp, fans can come watch, have a open practice, just like how the NFL guys do. I think the players would have a ball with that, and that'd be really cool. And hopefully it gets to that again. I loved it. USFL, and we had it. 4 teams had it with their hub system, but if we can get every team to be based in their market, save on the jet flying and all that stuff. Let's rent an office for a spring, have the headquarters somewhere, and hopefully get to see that again.
So hour 1 is a wrap. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll start hour 2, and we'll turn our attention to St. Louis and San Antonio. We will be back.
This is the Fuel Sports Network.
And that's the bottom line. You want a war? you're going to get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
So we got breaking news again.
Oh.
Yeah. San Antonio's field goal kicker just missed another kick in practice. So that makes
late practice.
That makes yeah. Coach said you're going to sit out there on the field until you make 3 in a row, and he still can't do it. He's up for 7.
Oh, no.
So so anyway. So the second game, 7:00 Central Time. It's going to be on Fox. Fox wanted this game in prime time. It sounds like pretty bad. So, again, it's San Antonio coming back to St. Louis for the second time in 2 weeks, just like Michigan had to do. And they're going to go at it again. So, before we get discussing that game, again, courtesy of the UFL, let's look at the highlights from Week 10.
Lewis all day and a gain of 23. Good job by the scrimmage. McCarron on the run. In the end zone, and it is caught for the touchdown. And he's back up. Dormany's warming up on the sideline.
Player of the offense when that occurs under 2 minutes.
Slow to get up. Holding that left wrist again. Over 20 yards on this opening drive of the second half. Ellison with room into the end zone, and San Antonio's on the board. Go up, and you're approaching the 2-minute warning. Dormany hit as he throws, but he's got Kirkland open, who made the grab and scores. Going out on this side. They keep it. Underneath, it is
an eligible receiver downfield, offense number 50.
For the lead again. And it's dropped. In and out of the head. To the 39. Oh, a catch made over the middle of the field by Calvin Turner. The hole from his punter, Brad Wing. And he hooked it. The playoff game. See you next week.
Were you there at the game, Ed?
You know I was.
What was the feeling there? Was there any nervousness amongst the Hawk Nation when Santoso lining up to kick this field goal?
I'm still nervous.
Oh boy.
It was let's put it this way. There wasn't much to take from that win, other than we got to play a home game. Actually, the rule, I like the XFL rule, or the, I guess, say UFL rule of the Super Challenge, where the challenge can include penalty or no penalty calls as well. I've heard a lot of back and forth this week. And I guess it depends upon which side of the fence you're on, because
Absolutely, it depends what side of the fence.
Because when you talk about illegal, linemen downfield, that's pretty much cut and dried. And I heard the argument all week that, he was engaged. It was as a running play. So when you're engaging the guy you're blocking, you can go as far down the field as you want, as long as when you disengage, you stand there. And it's like, no, you can't.
No.
The player knows when he goes to the line of scrimmage, whether it's a run play or it's a pass play. If it's a called pass play, which obviously that was, the offensive lineman got to know that they have to stay within so many yards of the line of scrimmage. So the fact that he was practically to the back of the end zone, still blocking a guy, how can you say that, he's engaging that player? That player was a linebacker. That player was a potential guy that could have been covering the receiver that was in the end zone at that time. So, I heard all the definitions of engaging and all that kind of stuff. And ultimately what it comes down to is, was you a Brahma fan or was you a St. Louis fan?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, if the shoe would have been on the other foot, 3/4 of these fans that want to call out that as being a bogus reversal would have been cheering for the same thing if the shoe was on the other foot.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the case of the fan not knowing the game. It's an RPO. It's a run pass option, which means it's a running play with a pass option. He has the option to pull it out and throw the football. The problem with the RPO is your line is run blocking, right? Because they have to block for the running play. So those guys are looking to go second level at some point. And what happened was he did just that. He went second level, got the linebacker. By him holding the ball and waiting for the guy to get open, he allowed his man to go second level. So that's on the quarterback for holding it too long. An RPO, it's got to come out quick. You either give it or throw it quick. You can't hold on to it that long. So part of that is on Dormady, and I got to watch him when he was in Orlando. He was actually one of the guys who was a pleasant surprise late in the year. But that's a mistake by the quarterback. You can't hold the ball that long on an RPO. It's got to be given, or it's got to come out quick, or you're going to run with it. If you're holding it and that happens, you got to take off and run and try and make a play on your own, because even if you complete the pass, one of your linemen 10-1 is going past that 1 yard bubble. And at that point, you can't throw the football down the field.
I mean, kudos to A.J. McCarron, going up to the head coach and saying that they had a lineman downfield. And right away you hear Coach Beck saying, give me a number. So, yeah, I mean, even though that happened and they reversed that play, the game was still far from over because, since it was an offensive penalty, they're still going to get to replay. So, I mean, it just seemed like that sequence of plays took a lifetime. It's like, oh my God.
And do we know the extent of Chase Garbers with the injury, with a hand injury? Is he good to go, or is he out? Do we have that yet?
I don't know. And unfortunately, now that I'm not covering the team, I'm not in the loop. I don't get those injury reports anymore. So I'm kind of getting the fan information. So I'm relying on the internet to feed me now when it comes to the UFL.
That's one of those things that if I had anything to say about the UFL, I would say that there needs to be a little bit tighter. They need to have that timeline during the week where they have to report certain things.
Yeah.
It seems like they hold things close to the vest till the very end before you find anything out. Case in point, when McCarron was made inactive, they actually signed a quarterback before they announced that he was inactive. So I spent a bunch of time scrambling trying to figure out whether a team could have 4 quarterbacks on their roster. And to me, he has to be declared inactive before you can sign a player. But, it's but the game itself, again, lot of room for an improvement. I've been very critical of the offensive coordinator for the Battlehawks, Gronkowski. I think that, there was something to be said for Week 10, keeping it vanilla, to have less film. But at the same point in time, there was a lot riding on that game as far as home field advantage goes. So to give the offensive coordinator the benefit of the doubt and say, he was just keeping it vanilla because he didn't want to give away a game plan, I have a hard time buying that. I think you got to give credit to the other team. San Antonio's defense is very formidable. And I think the San Antonio was creating a lot of headaches for St. Louis's offense. And I think that they really got to go back to the drawing board and come up with a new game plan, because you look back at, Hakeem Butler, who led the wide receivers in the UFL for yardage and touchdowns. He was a beast. And then when AJ went down and Manny Wilkins took over, he basically disappeared. Last week with AJ McCarron back, sitting in the stadium and watching plays develop, they left a lot of meat on the bone when it come to Hakeem Butler. He was open several times that he was not thrown to. And so you look over the last 3 weeks of Hakeem Butler, he has a total of 7 catches for 85 yards and no touchdowns. That's 3 games combined. That's just not going to cut it. Your big play guys got to have big games in the games that matter. And, you're looking at Ja'Cour Pearson over the last 3 weeks. He's got a total of 5 catches for 49 yards with no touchdowns. That just isn't good enough. So the offensive coordinator has to somehow open it up and get, we put the Battlehawks put this team together to fill the air with footballs this season. And we're into the crunch time, and you gotta build your offense around the guys that are going to get it done. And right now, to me, it's almost like it's back to the drawing board, and hopefully that's what happens. What do you guys think?
Boy, well, if anything, with these games being back-to-back weeks, like we talked about touchdown with the other game too. Going back to the drawing board, figuring out what you have to do, what corrections you have to make, and at the same time, make sure you have everything covered with your squad before moving on to evaluate the game plan for the next game. Watch the film, because there's so much. The practice time is very limited in spring football, so everything else in pro football too, it too, Jeff. Film study is how you're going to win these football games. So knowing the tendencies of each team. So how much was actually shown, like you said, Ed, with are you holding the cards to the vest, knowing that you have home field advantage on the line? How much of your closed vest plays did you have to use to secure a win to get home field advantage? So do you have to come up with new stuff? So decisions, I think, in-house for these teams has to be made, and prioritize what we have to do to set up your game plan for the best success and the best chance to win the game. So I think there's probably a lot of sleepless nights this week for a lot of these guys.
For me, when you're facing a very familiar opponent, breaking your tendencies is the most important thing, because they've seen virtually all your formations after 2 games. They've seen you in almost every situation you can, the 3rd and longs, the 3rd and shorts. They've seen you in the red zone. They've seen you backed up on your own end. They've seen you in almost every situation. So there's film of almost everything you do. The question is now, what do you break the tendencies with? Teams starting to figure those things out. We know that when we play off coverage, they like to run all hitches. We know that if we show 2 high safeties, if they have an alert on, they're going to alert to the run because they see the 2 high safeties. We know, so those are the things that you want to change. If they see our safeties splitting, All right, one coming down, one coming up. They're knowing we're in zone of man. They're going to attack it the same way. All right. All of those things have been on film. You've had a chance to digest it, whether it was the first meeting, whether it was the second meeting. You go back and combine the tapes. You see what's changed between the two. So a lot of those tendencies are still there. How do you break the tendencies? How do you give them something to look at that's different? Oh, well, they always did that before. Now all of a sudden you come out this game and you're attacking their two high safeties as opposed to running at it, as opposed to playing, going to the hitches. You're going to movement routes or screens versus their soft coverage. So things that you're still going to eat up that cushion, but you're trying to get the ball out in a different way faster. Yeah. That's going to allow them to not be able to jump your routes. So there are different things that you can do to break up the tendencies that's going to put that defense back on their heels again and saying, whoa, they're doing things differently that we saw in film, that we saw game one, that we saw game two. Let's come back to the sideline and figure it out. And while they're trying to figure it out, you're saying, okay, we got them doing this, this, and this. They may adjust this way, but we're attacking. We're pushing them. We're the ones who are in control of the situation. That's what you want to do. So I know a lot of coaches go through, they change up terminology. Well, they've played us twice. I didn't have to change up a lot of terminology. As long as I did certain things certain ways, different from the first two times they saw them, it still put the defense on their heels. So I think that's the main thing is, which team is going to be able to go out there and change up enough to not, without as far as changing your identity, to not have to go out there and try and reinvent the wheel. You beat a team twice. You got to go out there and do it a third time. Try and do it by doing the things you do best without having to change a lot.
So we've got St. Louis having to beat San Antonio for the third time, but they've got, I'm pretty sure that San Antonio is going to have the three-headed monster in the backfield back for this game coming up. We'll talk about that when we come back from our break.
Houston, we've triumphed. I've made it back to Earth with the cargo intact. The game-changing, time-sensitive payload is none other than the revolutionary energy flavor we've all been waiting for. Introducing Merc Mayhem Cherry Limeade. Merc Clan played a crucial role in securing this energy flavor, and together we've unlocked the future of power. Merc Mayhem is not just a drink, it's a statement, a fusion of relentless energy and bold flavor. The secret is out. Merc Mayhem is set to redefine the energy landscape, leaving ordinary drinks in its cosmic dust. Get ready for a taste explosion that matches Merc Clan's unparalleled power. Join the revolution, and let's unleash Merc Mayhem upon the world. Astronaut M signing off.
The one thing that makes me nervous and keeps me up at night this week has been the fact that they've got Anthony McFarland coming back from being injured. They've got John Lovett back, who basically carried the load for them this year. And I'm sure that all three running backs, I'm not sure what Morgan Ellison's status is. I know he got hurt late in the game on this last weekend. But, man, McFarland just looks fast. And not only is he a weapon running the ball, but he's also a weapon catching passes out of the backfield. And so, one of the strengths of the St. Louis's defense seems to be Harvey and Rose. They're two linebackers, but McFarland seems like a beast. And I'm sure that he will be able – their running core will be able to take a lot of heat off of Dormandy. who I think, as far as their offense goes, he seems to be the weaker link of the two. So, what do you guys think on that?
Well, McFarland. Well, sorry. Yeah. McFarland's definitely not the biggest guy, and I think one of the hardest parts with him, why he isn't at the next level right now, is because coming out of Maryland, he liked to run into contact. And he's not a big guy. He's not going to last a pounding, but he's done a great job this year of using his elusiveness, that creating opportunities for him in space. And I think that's one of the biggest threats you have to worry about. He's going to be a shifty guy that's going to be able to cut back and find creases. And then you have the other guys that come in and wear your front down. So McFarland's a guy we got to worry about the big play with. If they're getting chunk plays in the running game, it's going to come from McFarland. Lovett's a guy that's going to show toughness. He can hit you with some stuff too, but he's a guy that's going to hit you between the tackles hard, coming straight at you. Ellison's another one that does that, who absorbs contact and keeps moving forward. With him being injured, it will allow them to run Lovett a little bit more, but also work McFarland in space a lot more. They're going to get him on a lot more outside runs, a lot more the passes out of the backfield, a lot of screens. They're going to, and don't be surprised if they start moving around the formation too to try and create some matchups.
And Jeff too, and while with your coaching experience and your background too, with the Brahmas running the run and shoot offense. You talk about, they may not exactly like 100% the run and shoot, but they do have a lot of the run and shoot concepts.
Yeah.
And there, AJ Smith, he's the Air Raid Academy. Hal Mummy, they have a relationship, so kind of blending both the air raid and a run and shoot. You mentioned the speed and the space. So how does this play a role? How does this benefit a team like there, and the running backs too being out in space off? Fans who may not know about the run and shoot offense, what can they see in this game that may play a benefit to the San Antonio Brahmas?
Both offenses are excellent when it comes to attacking all three levels of the defense, right? They both run lighter packages. So you're going to see a lot of 10 personnel, which is no tight ends on the field, 11 personnel, which is one running back, one tight end, right? But when you look at some of the guys they have on their roster, they don't have a lot of tight ends. Why? They have Alize Mack and they have Cody Latimer. Well, if you watch the Guardians last year, Cody Latimer was really a tight end that's really plays like a wide receiver. He's a slot, right? So he gives you that ability to create matchups inside and create problems. And it still allows you to attack intermediate and vertical. Unlike with spread, a lot of teams are really good at throwing underneath, right? We run a lot of bubbles, we run the screens, we run the tunnel screens, we run the RPOs, we run a lot of short run and shoot. Air raid are designed to hit you at all three levels. That's where those over routes come in. That's where those deep crossers. So many things that you do out of the air raid that you don't do as much in the spread that they're trying to incorporate. But realistically, a lot more of the spread teams that do that are more air raid than spread. And run and shoot, although that was more under center, the wide receivers all had different options, right? They came to the line of scrimmage, they read the coverage, and their route would change based on the coverage. It's not as much set in stone. So taking those concepts and kind of melding them is something different because it relies on, one, your quarterback being able to read the same things your receivers are reading, and it also relies for them to be able to see the coverage and understand what they're doing. Something a lot harder in this day and age now that teams are running this combination zone coverage that looks one thing, but because one guy is in that zone is playing a different scheme than the rest, it's harder to identify, before and after the snap. Or you can come out against zone and identify it by certain looks or certain movements after the snap. And it's kind of harder to do with the combination coverage. So you really have to understand your reads a little bit more, be a little more patient with them. And that's one of the things that's harder to do for the receivers and quarterbacks when you're talking about what they're seeing coverage-wise. But overall, they're better at attacking the intermediate and vertical than what you see out of a lot of spread.
I agree with Sabrina here. You talk about trick plays. Nobody's been more effective with trick plays than San Antonio. And when you've got Jontre Kirkland as your wide receiver, who, just last week alone, 7 catches, 127 yards and a touchdown. And then you have McFarland stretching the defense. and Kirkland's pretty good throwing the ball too. It opens up the door for, and then about the time you're worried about that, then Lovett's going up the middle for 5 or 6 yards. So I feel like this game is going to be, you better strap it on because it's going to be a totally different game. Hopefully St. Louis's offense will be able to match the intensity that I think San Antonio is going to bring on offense. One of the Achilles heels of St. Louis is they're dead last in the league on third down conversions. Against the Brahmas last week, they went 2 for 12 on third down. There's just no way to get any kind of flow to a game offensively when you're that poor at a third down efficiency, and it seems like that's just plagued them the whole season. Just as they've been inefficient, I think they're like at a 32% clip for third downs, last in the league. Their defense is, like last week, they're almost given 50% on third down conversion. So like I said, whether it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 8, they always seem to be able to convert to keep that drive going. And it's such a morale killer when your defense can't get off the field and they just continue to convert every third down. You get to third down. And, another thing, I love Travis Feeney to death. I think he brings quite a dynamic at defensive end. But, part of his game is speed, but he anticipates the snap a lot. And just like you like to have a home dome advantage of, getting the other team to have false starts and all that because of the crowd noise, on defense, likewise, there's just no excuse to be getting 5-yard penalties for encroachment and crossing the neutral zone.
Watch that football.
You just got to watch the football, but I don't want to come down on him because I don't want him to, when you hesitate, when your game is built on speed, you know what happens. So should be, it's, I don't know.
The intensity is, you can probably cut the tension right now with a knife here. So, holy smokes. I mean, I can't wait. Can we get to Saturday right now?
Well, you touched on something, right? You were talking about the third down issues for St. Louis, and there's reasons behind it, right? You look at how they play, their style of play. Well, one of the issues they've had this year, you look at their overall third down conversion percentage on the season is only 34%. And when you look at it, one of the reasons why is they struggle to protect the quarterback. It's about a team that gave up 19 sacks in 10 games, almost 2 sacks a game. So that's not counting pressures and hits on your quarterback. So there are things that they struggle with protecting the passer. And going against Wade Phillips, a Wade Phillips defense, which means you're going to see pressure on top of pressure. So this is something that you got to watch for. That's something that they struggled with last game, even with the issues with the changes at quarterback. But overall, they were able to stay in that game because they were able to keep St. Louis's offense, off balance. And one of the reasons is because of their pressure. You got to be able to pressure the quarterback consistently to keep St. Louis under control. When you look at their top receivers, why is Butler such a big issue? Because plain and simple, Butler is a guy who's a build-up speed guy. He's not going to beat you right off the cuff, but he's a big receiver who builds up speed. So his best routes coming across the field, his best routes are coming back to the football. That takes time. If you can't protect the quarterback long enough to get him the football, he's not as effective.
What do you suppose could be the possible? When we brought Shakur Pearson onto the Battlehawks, there was a lot of anticipation there with what he was going to be able to deliver, and it just hasn't happened. Do you think that that's more a result of what you were just talking about with the offensive line and not giving him enough time to run his routes? Or do you think he's still kind of dealing with an injury that he's just had to live with for the season?
It may be a combination of things. One thing, he may still be have a nagging injury. I think listen, if you're trying to attack down the field, you need time to throw the football. If you're not getting consistent time, that's going to affect your ability to throw the football down the field. You're going to wind up calling safer passes. You're going to wind up holding people in. You're going to wind up doing different things to try and to maximize your protection for your quarterback. You're going to wind up running the football more to limit the ability of people to get to your quarterback. So there are a lot of different factors, I believe, in that. But I think, one, Butler breaking out has kind of helped him. But he also needed help from the other guys around him, something they haven't gotten consistently. Pearson, I think, is one of those guys. The reason why he's here is because he's been inconsistent. And whether it's because of injury this year, it's because of the fact that he just can't consistently attack down the field. I think overall there's several factors that are probably affecting his performance so far.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell watching him on the sideline when he comes off. Hakeem definitely wears his emotion on his sleeve. We went up to Michigan for the first game of the season, and they were struggling big time on offense there for a while, and a couple of the fans engaged him coming off the field a few times, and it didn't take him too long to spout back. So I know he definitely is an emotional player, but I tell you what, when he is on, he can single-handedly take over a game. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion of the San Antonio Brahmas, St. Louis Battlehawks.
It's time I get in the game, forget the money and fame. Stay ready, making sure that they'll remember my name. I got a hunger inside when the numbers are tied. Yo, I'ma turn it up a level, never will be.
So you two are defensive coordinators for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And you have to try and slow down the offense of San Antonio. Are you gonna entertain the thought of doing some more blitzing to kind of try and force Dormandy to make some mistakes? Because looking back, we've one of the things St. Louis has been notorious here the last 5 weeks, they have not scored a point in the first quarter. And on the opposite side, San Antonio has not given up a first quarter point since week 3 when they played St. Louis way back in the day. So, but what San Antonio has shown is that San Antonio can make mistakes in the first quarter, first half, and that'll produce turnovers. So if you're the defense for St. Louis and you're the defense for San Antonio, what are you looking at right off the cuff of what you might do as a defensive scheme that could slow down both these offenses?
Well, I would say I'll start with St. Louis. So what I know about the air raid or the run and shoot, blitzing may, I would say, press the wide receivers, try to slow down the passing rhythm. Now they do get the three-headed monster back in the backfield, running back. So it's going to be a chess game. Obviously they're not going to have any tight ends in their formation. So if you play, let's say, a dime package to go against the passing attack, well, that's going to limit you in the box. So you pick your poison. Do you want to get torched in the air, or do you want to get on the ground? If you let them run on the ground, you may keep the game closer, for you to keep the offense, kind of in the game the whole time. So I don't know if you want to necessarily blitz. I know. I don't know how much the Battlehawks have addressed their woes in the secondary, but I would say to keep the game close. And now we don't know the extent. Is it going to be Normandy starting, Chase Garber starting, his health? So to keep the run and shoot passing attack out of rhythm, just keep the corners pressed on the wide receivers to slow down that passing attack, and then let the cards fall in there. If they run the ball, just funnel to the middle of the field, go to the ball, see ball, get ball. So just keep an eye out for that. That's what I would do for defense.
Sabrina comments here: if St. Louis gets hot in the first quarter, it's a wrap. San Antonio was kind of they kind of reversed roles last week. They've kind of been on a trend where the second half, they're not able to produce much. So going into the halftime this last week, when Battlehawks were up 10-0, I felt pretty comfortable because San Antonio has just been notorious for laying an egg in the second half. They come out this last week and basically St. Louis was scrambling to try and hold on to that lead, and they actually lost it towards the end for a while there. But what do you think, Jeff?
For me, I'm going to take some chances, but I'm going to pick my spots. What I want to do is I want to mix up my fronts and confuse them. I want to do as much to confuse their blocking. I don't want them to know whether I'm just stunting up front, whether I'm just rushing hard up with a speed rush, or if I'm going to come with blitzes. I'm going to show them a lot of different looks up front. I'm going to show them sometimes I'm going to show them those double A gap blitzes, and I'm going to come and drop out of that. I'm going to show those wide fronts where we're actually going to collapse. I may send somebody looping around. I'm going to do different looks with my blitzes. Off of those looks, I'm also going to run some man and zone behind it, right? So sometimes I'm going to blitz with zone behind it. Sometimes I'm going to blitz with man behind it. So I'm going to try and make sure I give that quarterback enough different things to look at that he starts to hold the ball and starts to second guess himself. Because at one point, they're going to make a bad mistake. They're going to guess man. They're going to guess blitz. They're going to drop out of it. And you're going to catch him in one. That's just the numbers. You're always going to catch him once. But if you make him pay, even better. But the main thing is you want to make that quarterback start to second guess himself. If you do all of that and you're you're confusing their blocking schemes, you're able to control the running game with that, it'll affect the passing game too. So the main thing is you got to confuse those five guys up front. That's going to allow you to get pressure on their quarterback. That's going to allow you to confuse them. It's going to allow you to control their running game. So I'm going to play around at the line of scrimmage. I'm going to win there. I think overall in the secondary, when you look at it, the Battlehawks aren't overly talented, but they're long, right? They have some long guys. They have some short guys too, like Levert Hill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up my coverages. I'm going to allow some of my players to play some man, but also play in zone with some guys over the top of them. So I'm going to mix it up, but I really want to confuse those five guys up front. I'm going to make them earn everything that they're getting.
Sometimes I think that St. Louis has been guilty of not stretching the field. Mm-hmm. You can get caught up in that 3-yard passes and dump off passes and screens and stuff and forget that you need to keep that defense stretched to create lanes. And regardless of whether it's successful or not, I think you need to run a couple deep routes early. Just to let San Antonio know that, they got to cover all areas of the field and they can't keep tightening it down because I think with A.J. McCarron, it's no secret he's battling an injury. and his mobility. In fact, he surprised me a little bit last week. He did have a little mobility that I didn't think he would have, but still, he's just not a running quarterback, and San Antonio knows that.
Yeah.
So I think that if I was a betting man, I would guess that they're going to try and push the issue and bring the heat to him and see if he can make the quick decisions that he needs to make to get the ball distributed where it needs to go. But
Yeah.
like Mike talks about, I think that I think you're looking at a big chess match, and when you say that, you think of Wade Phillips, and you think Coach Wade Phillips. He's been in a lot of chess matches, so I got to think that chess match doesn't scare Wade at all.
No, and one of the best ways we talk about throwing the ball vertically. One of the best ways to do that is play action, right? And it's not always just throwing the go routes, throwing the corners and the posts. That over route that comes in between the linebacker and the safety is big because that's allowing you to catch it in the intermediate zone, in space, and run after the catch. So that's where I think St. Louis offensively is most effective. And I think if they can do that more, and it starts with your play action, and you got to start that early. You don't always just come out running the ball and set up your play action. Sometimes your play action's already set up by what you've done previously. So if you can come out early with some play action passes because teams don't want to get run on and attack people, that allows you to throw the ball vertically, manufacture vertical plays, as I like to say, where you can catch an intermediate pass and run for another 10, 15, 20 yards after you've already caught it 15 yards down the field. That's 30 yards. It's still a vertical pass in the playbook. So anything over 20 yards is that vertical throw. Well, you've converted an intermediate into a vertical throw just by catch and run after the catch. Something that's big now at the next level of football is what we're seeing with a lot of the air raid teams, right? They're catching it intermediate and taking it vertical by running after the catch. So that's the main thing. You have to be able to do that and do that consistently. And then all of a sudden, everything opens up because linebackers turn faster to get into their drops. All of a sudden, your running game opens up faster. Or they start biting up quicker because they're worried about some of the other things in the running game or the quarterback scrambling, and you still have openings down the field. So when you start overwhelming a defense with a lot of different things, it makes them play slower and allows you to play faster. So the main thing is you're going to get those vertical throws, but it's where you get them. It's not always going to be the deep ones. Sometimes it's an intermediate throw in space that the run after the catch turns it into a bigger play.
So I kind of agree with Sabrina here. I think it's going to come down to which defense can get the turnovers. With this type of a game, I think either side that's able to get to a good lead, I think the defenses are good enough that they can make that hold. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our final break of the night, and when we come back, we are going to get into the pick segment. We will be right back.
If you aren't perfect, if you've ever struggled, if you've ever failed, if you want to get better, be better, and make our world better, this is the perfect brand for you. True Victory. Founded by U.S. military veterans, True Victory is a sportswear and streetwear brand dedicated to building everyday champions on and off the field. We're a cause. Our purpose is to transform lives and elevate humanity through the power and unity of sports, positive stories, and serving others. We're dedicated to the game, the grind, and the globe. But most importantly, we're dedicated to you. That's what it means to be always true.
So it's time for the final segment. Who's going to come out victorious and make it to the first ever UFL championship game? Who wants to go first on this one?
I'll go first.
Oh, yeah. Jeff, take it away.
This is the one matchup where I could possibly see the home team, although they have a great home team advantage, losing. And it's because of some of the deficiencies we talked about with St. Louis. We know that there's questions about quarterback play with San Antonio, but you're facing a team that's a high-pressure team. You struggle to protect the quarterback. Your quarterback is possibly not 100% himself. You're struggling on third down. There's a lot of bad factors in that. A team can come into your home and beat you playoff time. I think this will be another tight ball game. I don't think this is going to be a blowout one way or the other. I think it's going to come down to some tight plays at the end. I think the San Antonio defense steps up at the end of the game and pulls off the upset.
What score do you have, Jeff?
I'm going to go 19-17.
Okay. All right, and I'll follow suit. Well, Ed, you'll have the wrap up on the pick here. So, picked Michigan. Michigan's beat St. Louis week 1 field goal game. So, with this being said, I think this one will also be a close game. I think it'll be a 19-16 score, but not by a field goal. A quarterback is going to step up, have a 2-minute drive against the clock, to put one in the end zone to go up by 3. Who that's going to be, I'm going to have to ask the St. Louis Battlehawks fans to save me and my brother a seat at the game for the championship. I'm going to go St. Louis Battlehawks winning and going home again to host the UFL championship 1916.
I will have to say that I think it's real as far as the struggles of the field goal kicker, San Antonio. I think now you've missed 5 field goals in a row. And even though both field goals were 50-plus yarders, the Battlehawks got to where when they come out on the field that game, they had every guy, Hakeem Butler, you name it, everybody that was tall, they had out there, and they rushed up the middle, and they were all trying to block it. And the first kick they did block. But I think that when you're 0 for 5, I think he's got the yips. And you look at the field goal kicker for St. Louis, he's been solid all year long. In fact, I think he has – does he have the most field goals? I think it's between him and Bates, isn't it, as far as the most field goals made?
Yeah.
I just think that it's going to come down to a game of field goals, just like this last one was. And if I'm going to slide my chips to the middle of the table, like Mike said, the first game with Michigan and Birmingham, if it comes down to a field goal game, I'm going to take the Battlehawks kicker every day of the week and twice on Sundays compared to San Antonio's kicker.
You might need him Sunday.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the Battlehawks, and I'm going to make it I'm going to say it's going to be 23-21.
Ooh.
And I'm going to say that Birmingham or San Antonio gets to that 21, not by field goals. They get to it by scoring touchdowns, but when it comes right down to it, and they need that kick to put him over the hump. I just don't have the confidence that he's going to be able to do it. So I've got St. Louis and Birmingham in the championship game. God, show's not over yet. Maybe I should change that Birmingham pick. God.
Hey, then I gotta, if you pick, if Michigan wins, I believe in my heart that I'm going to make the trip over to St. Louis to watch the Michigan Panthers play in the championship should they make it. So
it sounds like Mike and we're all different. Look at that. Ed and or myself and Mike took St. Louis with Jeff taking San Antonio, and then Jeff and I took Birmingham with Mike taking Michigan. So
all different championship picks. Look at that, huh?
That's a good thing. You get worried when you have consensus picks in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
That's when you know you got good matchups when you just don't have slam dunk picks, right?
Do we have time to roll Memphis and Arlington's games?
You want to see the highlights of Memphis?
Yeah,
or you just want to talk about it.
We can roll the highlights and then give a quick shout out on the game too, because both those games are pretty competitive too for being the last games, and shout outs to those teams too for being eliminated from the playoff. But just especially with Showboats and Arlington going out with a win, that's I think great feeling. Even though it feels the end of the season, the finality of the game too, and going out with the W, I think, can make you feel pretty good going into the off season.
We're not going to we don't have time to run the highlights, but we do have time to have a few comments on the game. So,
good for Coach Flip. Coach Flip, too. Saw a lot of raw emotion from that win, overcoming a lot of adversity in the season, too. Injuries and what have you, all-line play, just the expectations for all these teams that I think this last week, too. Houston, we knew kind of, with Houston, with it, the Gamblers, in my opinion, too, 5-5 last year in the USFL. So we knew they were a talented roster, in my opinion. I think Kenji Bahar was a good pick, for them too, but coaches saw a different direction for where they wanted to go as far as the quarterback play goes. But you still have Mark Thompson, and I think, they showed some fight in a lot of games too. What they didn't have for Houston is both sides of the ball playing at their best. Usually it was one or the other, and then the other side of the ball, whether it be offense or defense, complete opposite. So if you had a great defensive game, offense wasn't playing up to snuff, and it was the other way around. We saw with offense firepower against Birmingham, with Houston, just defense couldn't lock down the Stallions, which not a lot of teams could. That's nothing against Houston. But yeah, Sabrina, Coach Flip, oh my goodness. So Coach Flip, protect him at all costs. Great coach there. Happy for him and those guys to get a win, and also the first round pick in each round of the next UFL draft. So when that will be, could it be right after the season? I hear there's from an article some time ago that they're looking at having a college draft right after. So there's gonna be a draft pool. We got showcases coming up too. So as we saw, there was a press release there. So lots to look forward to. A lot of exciting things. So I think the Showboats fans out there, just hang in there. Michigan's this is the same spot Michigan Panthers were in not too long ago, 2 years ago. They played from this exact same game against I don't know who the team was the Pittsburgh Maulers for the right to have the number 1 pick. Michigan won it. And hey, just keep believing, let the coaches, let them build the roster. I think this could be a league where a team can go from bottom to top pretty quick. So just keep filling the holes, get the spots you need. There's a lot of talent out there. Hopefully I would love to see an expansion in scouting departments. So hey, yeah. So hey, we're happy to help find these guys.
So before we run out of time, Jeff, I want to ask you one burning question. I've been pretty critical because I just got tired of hearing it all year long. All I heard was Luis Perez, King of Spring. Is time run out for him? as far as the NFL, or do you think that there's still an opportunity there for him to get into the NFL? Because it sure seems like every year he's able to put up the numbers and has a lot of talent, but why is he still in the UFL?
He's still in the UFL because he's had some issues. One, reading coverage. He's had some issues processing. So those were the issues of him coming out of Texas A&M Commoners, right? He's improved. And he's got the size. He's got arm strength. Not great, but good arm strength. So he's improved. The question is now, you're in a point where the NFL is different. They will give you a shot even if you were later in your career. He's getting to the point now it's getting hard to give him that shot to be a QB3 because of age. Analytics takes that into effect. There's a lot of teams using it. You're talking about a 29-year-old quarterback in a developmental league. His shots are running real thin. So to me, if he doesn't do it this year, it's just not going to happen unless he goes there and kills it in the training camp and takes the franchise by storm. It's just hard now because there are so many guys, 21, 22, 23, 24 years old with upsides that are bigger or the same that they're going to take a look at because they can sit that guy on a practice squad for 2 or 3 years and give him a chance to make a roster. At 29, every year, those numbers that chance goes down and down and down. So that's the biggest issue for him. Yes, he's gotten better. Yes, he's improved. He may get another shot in a training camp, but if he doesn't go in there and light it up in a training camp, are you going to keep a 30-year-old guy on your roster as a developmental prospect? Probably not. You're probably going to keep the younger quarterback and let him go play here or play in an arena or play somewhere where they believe that he's just a better fit. And then that's the hard part. That when you're starting to get up there in age, and he's been out of it for a while. I scouted him. That tells you, that I was still new to scouting when he was coming out. So it's just unfortunately, Father Time is undefeated, and the clock is ticking on him as far as chances in the NFL.
So I hate to cut it off real quick, but we do have another show that we need to get to. Real quick, Jeff, thanks for joining us. If you want to give us where we can find you, your contacts real quick, we can do that, but then we're going to have to mosey.
Sure. You see at Jeff Barnes 29 there. You can find me on X. Also at teammbsmedia.com. You'll find some of my work there on the YouTube channel, especially. I do a lot more of their digital content. So you'll see a lot more of my shows there. The Last Word, Moving the Chains, which is our NFL stuff. And then, of course, Draft Central. We front to back with the draft, live all 3 days. We just recapped the 2021 draft and gave out grades because we always like to wait 3 years before we grade a draft. So this was the first time we actually did a show of us grading each team's draft.
Awesome. Good stuff, Jeff. Well, thanks again for joining us. We'd love to bring you back again.
We'll do.
Good luck to all 4 teams except the 2 teams that are playing the Battlehawks in Michigan. So we will see you again next week. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you at the games, and we'll talk about it next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Go Battlehawks.
Stick around, Jeff.